Hi there. Have you ever wondered what your natural or preferred style of negotiation is? Well, there are 5 fundamental negotiation strategies or approaches. You can choose to be collaborative, you can choose to be compromising, competitive, accommodating, or you can choose to be avoiding in your approach to negotiations. So many people will say that a collaborative approach is the goal or is the aspiration. That would be the best way to approach negotiations. Certainly that would be the case if you're involved in conflict or dispute resolution or in peace type negotiations. But in a business context, it's not possible to be collaborative for all your negotiations. Now we know that you're going to have a natural preference for maybe 1 or 2 of those 5 different styles, and you'll probably overutilize that mode of negotiation. So let me give you some examples here. Let's say you bring the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, to bear on your negotiations, the ones that you're involved in on a day-to-day basis. Maybe about 20% of those will represent 80% of the value that you're busy with, right? So those negotiations, it would be very advisable that you pursue a collaborative approach. But equally, 20% of the stuff that you're busy with maybe presents you with no value at all. As a matter of fact, it's really just a hassle. There's almost no margin in it. There's no profit in it. It sucks up your resources, your time. Those will be awesome negotiations to hand over to your competitors, wouldn't it? So maybe you want to be competitive in your approach to those negotiations. Be highly assertive, because those don't really deliver value to you. Maybe in another market segment or another part of your product suite, etc., it might be that you haven't really established your credibility in the market yet. It's a new market segment that you're entering, a new product. Maybe now you have to be accommodating. You have to establish your credentials first before, or you have to create value first before you're going to be able to claim value, right? Maybe another proportion of your business, another 20% of your business, let's say, it's profitable, there's potential for growth, but it runs along at a nice clip. Great opportunity for you to be compromising in that regard. And then there'll be some other part to your business that's really commoditized, or some of the things that you're busy with, where you think, you know what, I can just do with completely avoiding discussions around this. The relationship's of no importance. If you're on the buy side, clearly you can just do that from or using an e-procurement, e-auction type approach. If you're in the sell side, you might just choose not to get engaged at all in those kind of discussions or negotiations. So how do you know which style of negotiation your counterpart's pursuing? So now I've given you some food for thought in terms of maybe what your default approach might be. But how do you know if somebody's being collaborative? So a collaborative mode of negotiation, of course, is a highly assertive and a highly cooperative mode of negotiation. But normally the sequence is to cooperate first and then to be assertive, right? So if somebody's really interested in learning about you, understanding also what your issues are before they assert themselves, then normally that's an indication that at least they're trying to be cooperative, if not compromising or collaborative in that case. When you encounter somebody and all they talk about is themselves, they don't ask you any questions, they just position what they need, then of course they're being very high on the assertiveness scale, they're being very competitive, not being cooperative at all. If they do a little bit of both, then you start to get an inkling that perhaps they're on a kind of a compromising plane, right? So the key thing for you to remember in this context, of course, is the force of the rule of reciprocity, or the principle of reciprocity, which underpins all human behavior, which says, I return to you the form of behavior that you exhibit towards me, and vice versa. So if I'm nice to you, probably you're going to be nice to me. If I'm rude and impolite to you, probably you're going to be rude and impolite to me. If I set out my demands and I just tell you what I need from my negotiation, guess what you're going to do? You're probably going to respond by telling me what you need from the negotiation and what your demands are, right? So it's important to think about this sequence within which we do things. So if you're naturally very assertive, very competitive, you might want to consider changing the sequence to be, let's cooperate first and then go to assertiveness. So then go towards letting people understand what it is that we need from doing this deal. By the way, it's also worth noting that you can be competitive without treating people rudely or impolitely. Of course, it's a perfectly accepted mode of negotiation. As a general rule, there's never any excuse not to treat people with dignity and respect, right? So you can be highly assertive and still treat people with dignity and respect. For instance, I could say to somebody, listen, as much as I'd love to do business with you under these conditions, it just doesn't make sense. I'm not able to move forward. If anything changes, I'd love for you to get in touch. I'd love to pick up another conversation, but it's not possible to proceed on the terms that you suggested. It's a highly competitive positioning statement I've just made, but I've done so in a way that respects the individual who's sitting across the table from me. So I hope that helps you as you think about the different approaches that you want to take to your negotiations. You should remember this final thing, that the quality of your communication is measured by how you're understood. So if you intend to be collaborative and you say to people, you know what, let's collaborate, then you must be very careful that the behavior that you display is not competitive. So you can't be assertive first. If you want to be collaborative, if that's the message that you want to send, you have to be cooperative first. Think about the principle of reciprocity. If I cooperate first, if I'm interested in you first, the odds are significantly enhanced that you're going to be responding in a similar way by being interested in my goals and needs. I hope that helps you, and please accept my best wishes for your continued success.